Chris Dorner, the target of one of the largest manhunts in U.S. history, is dead. At 12:20 p.m. today, we found reports of a stolen vehicle in Big Bear near, of course, about 80 miles outside of Los Angeles. Turns out California Department of Fish and Wildlife actually spotted him on the road, turned around, they engaged him, and at 12:45 there was a shootout. The wildlife vehicle was shot several times. Dorner then went on foot. He actually got into another shootout with San Bernardino County deputies. Two of them were wounded, and unfortunately one of them eventually passed away. And then at one point Dorner found himself in a cabin. But between the news that he was in the cabin and the news that the cops had been shot, one of them had been killed, and they didn't know where Dorner was, there was a moment there where a lot of people thought, my God, he might have gotten away again. Now, if that had happened, right or wrong, and obviously Chris Dorner was wrong in 100 different ways, he would have been a bit of a legend. Now, not legend in a good way necessarily, somewhere between Rambo and Hannibal Lecter. But if he had disappeared in those woods, my God, it would have been a gigantic story. As it is, it's already an enormous story. And I started thinking in the midst of that time period where they didn't know where he was, my God, what if people joined him? And then we got a report that another former LAPD officer had written a manifesto online. And the manifesto was started in the same exact way that Chris Dorner's manifesto was started. And remember, Dorner's main complaint was that he was let go by the LAPD unjustly because of discrimination against African Americans. The other officer, also an African American, also saying the discrimination Dorner described was exactly right. But this officer, of course, renounced the violence, said Dorner was going in the wrong direction. But I had another interesting thought there. And this is in some ways an admission by me. As he was in the woods, and look, nobody was going to join him, obviously, because he doesn't really have a political cause. It was a personal vendetta that he was on. I thought, what if there was 2 of those guys in the woods? What if there was 10 of those guys in the woods? And then I thought, what if there was 200 of those guys in the woods? Getting hold of one of them was tough enough. Now, the reason I say that is because a lot of times, right-wing and sometimes left-wing gun rights supporters say, hey, if we rise up against tyranny, we can fend off the government. And I think, oh, come on, the U.S. military is drones. They have every kind of machinery and weaponry that you could possibly imagine. But you know what? 200 Dorners in the woods, that's a tough, tough situation, right? So now, look, government has done a lot of things wrong, but I hope that we're not fighting off their tyranny, and that certainly would be the wrong way to do it. But it was an interesting moment there. Now, as it turns out, he went into that cabin. Eventually, the cabin was lit on fire. We don't know who lit the cabin on fire or whether it was a mistake. But CBS local reporter Carter Evans reported that when the fire started, they heard a single gunshot. And then afterwards, they did not hear any human noise at all, yelling or screaming as the fire burnt down the cabin. And now a report from the LA mayor's office that, in fact, a body was found, and it was Chris Dorner's. Chris Dorner is now dead, and the manhunt is over.